So, Jacob Fowler, 1822, February the 4th, either Sunday or Monday, 1822. This is his journal. This is his diary. Jacob Fowler. The wind high and very cold. We set out early up the valley. The valley being of the Huerfano River, which if followed up W would take him into Huerfano Park between the wet mountain range and the Sangre de Cristo range. So the wind high and very cold. We set out early up the valley, a little west of south for about 2 miles, thence up the point of a mountain, and along the ridge, leave high peaks on both sides till we took up a high hill and through a pine grove where the snow is 3 feet deep. And at about 5 miles from camp, we came to the top or backbone of the mountain, which divides the waters of the Arkansas from the Del Norte. Here the wind was so cold we scarce dare look around. Del Norte, it's Rio Grande Del Norte, and the Arkansas River cuts across Pueblo. It used to be Spain and America, dividing line between Spain and America. Pueblo, Colorado, which is about a 3-hour drive north from here, the headwaters of the Rio Grande Del Norte in southwest Costilla County, near the Lobato Bridge. So, this is, okay, they crossed, right? They're about to cross, right? This is the great crossing. He says, you know, to the point of the mountain or along the ridge, right? So along the ridge, and we crossed it south 5 miles to the top of the mountain. We then steered more west down the mountain to a branch of the Del Norte and down that about south for nearly 10 miles to where the mountains are much lower, where we camped for the night. Jacob Fowler don't even know how to spell. Camped is C-A-P-T-E-D, capted, where we capted. We here find no timber but piney and rolls, some old logs off the mountain for firewood. Fire, F-I-E-R, fire, was that German? Dick Walters is missing, and on inquiry he had lost his blanket coming down the mountain and tied his horse to a tree and gone back to find him, and that his horse broke loose and overtook the rear party at about 4 miles from where he tied him. The horse was here, caught and tied again. It is now sundown and no word of Dick Walters. We're afraid he is frozen. F-R-O-S-E-N. We made 15 miles this day, so they traveled 15 miles, but made, M-A-I-D. Oh my gosh, and then Dick Walters got to camp sometime in the night, south, 45 degree west, 10 miles. Okay, so what the hell does this mean? What the hell does this mean? Well, when he said, we then steered more west down the mountain to a branch of the Del Norte and down about south for 10 miles to where the mountains are much lower. That means he made the Sangre de Cristo Pass from the watershed of the Huerfano to that of the Rio Grande Del Norte. See Pike. Okay, so it may be difficult or impossible to find the record of any earlier passage of these mountains by an American party or indeed any previous itinerary of the whole Taos Trail. Then the Sangre de Cristo Creek, he's going to cross the Sangre de Cristo Creek, a tributary to the Tinchera Creek, which is a branch of the Rio Grande. Besides the distance above given for making the pass today, camp on Sangre de Cristo Creek, which flows past Fort Garland into Tinchera Creek in the San Luis Valley, that branch of the D and RGRR, which goes through the Veda Pass, follows down the creek on which Fowler is camped. Now, February the 5th. So yeah, that's the historical moment right there. He jotted this shit down and tied his horse. You know, old Dick Walters, he got lost, right? They finally made it, and Dick Walters lost his damn mind. So that's the journal entry for February 4th, 1822. Jacob Fowler would be the first man to go through the Veda Pass. I believe is the same thing as the Sangre de Cristo Pass, because it's how you get through the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. And how you do it, you just drive. I don't even know why he's... Anyways. So, yeah, Jacob Fowler would be one of the first white men into Costilla County. You're going to have the Spanish right here and there, and Coronado and Onate, they never made it into Colorado, so don't even act like, don't even use your, pretend like, well, maybe somebody, no. Why would they didn't even, why would you give credit that they didn't have, for one thing? It's not the truth. And then, why would you give them credit for shit they didn't even claim for themselves? If I would have got to the moon and I, traveled on a mountain, I wouldn't say, well, and then, I traveled on another mountain, but I'm not going to mention that. So, fuck the Onate and the Coronado expeditions. They never made it into Colorado. The first white European man documented by written history in the Costilla County is Don Diego de Vargas, 1694. I just want to touch a bit on this because Zebulon Pike is going to be the first Englishman, and that's 1807. And then you're going to have Jacob Fowler, 1822. So we don't have much written record. This is just a few. And it's, we crossed the creek and walked this way and walked that way. We're going to pretend that that was the Sangre de Cristo. If it was the Sangre de Cristo, then why didn't he say it? And he could have been like, oh yeah, and then we crossed a creek and another creek, and then we crossed another mountain. So the written record, is that much better than, oral tradition or the, archaeological evidence? So, I want to mention Don Diego de Vargas because we're talking about the early thing. I want to get into Jacob Fowler, just the 8 days or what have you, that he was in the San Luis Valley just to get a sampling, get a little taste of what the San Luis Valley was like in 1822. But I want to mention Don Diego de Vargas because, fucking Nate and Coronado. But all these damn conquistadors, right, champions, and they act like big, strong men. They're all bitches to the royal class, to the kings and queens. Charles II of Spain, he's the ugly and bewitched. He's the last Habsburg ruler of the Spanish Empire. So he's going to, just lose the Spanish crown, and the Habsburgs he's the end of the line. The House of Habsburgs was ruling shit for, centuries, hundreds of years until Charles was set. So this douchebag, right, this ugly, bewitched douchebag, Queen Charles II, he had actually one atrophied testicle, right? So he had one, work, but one that didn't work, just like Adolf the shitbird fucking douchebag. So 1694. 1694 is when the written record begins for Costilla County in Colorado. Don Diego de Vargas has 100 soldiers, 70 settlers with families. So 100 soldiers plus 70 settlers, and that's how many extra? That's the wife, the kids, right? At least one apiece, so that's another 200 people. So he's, Don Diego de Vargas, he's the Governor General of New Mexico. So he's, controlling New Mexico. But then they went around and they're, hungry, and the people in New Mexico, at least the white conquistadors, they're hungry. And so Don Diego de Vargas, he's going to do this expedition up to Costilla County because he's going to raid the stores of corn of several villages to feed the hungry Spanish settlers in Santa Fe, but that's going to piss off the Taos natives. The Taos Puebloan natives are going to get pissed, and they're going to attack Vargas, and now Vargas has to run, and he runs north. And he runs up, he marches up the Rio Grande into Costillo and Conejos County. So he's got 100 soldiers, 70 settlers, with their families, 18 Franciscans, and a bunch of natives, a bunch of Indian allies. So 18 Franciscans, there's the Catholics, 70 settlers, there's pioneers and soldiers. So the conquist, wow, this is, 300, 400, a lot of people. So Don Diego de Vargas has 400 people. Governor General of New Mexico leads a band of Spaniards north into the San Luis Valley to avoid ambush by the Pueblo native tribes because he stole their damn corn. So the Vargas expedition is just for food, for survival. They're not exploring new lands to conquer, nor for gold, nor silver, nor to meet new people, nor to congregate, nor for trade, nor for contact, but to steal the food from the Aborigines. The Taos natives, and these are the Taos natives. There's a city in New Mexico called Taos, and then you have the Taiwa and the Tiwa and the Towa natives. The Towas are some badasses, and Towa and Taos sound very similar. Towas, Taos. The Towas natives, they kicked ass in 1680 with the Pueblo Revolt, kicked the Spanish, out at least for a decade or two, and then the Towas from Jemez and Paco, repelled Coronado back to Mexico 60 in 1542. So not only was Coronado a piece of shit douchebag who didn't make it to Colorado, but the Towas kicked his ass. You know, the Towas in New Mexico said, get the hell out of here. And now they were, you know, the Towas kicked the Spaniards' ass in 1680, and now they're kicking Vargas's ass in 1694. So the Towas, T-O-W-A-S, the Towas Native Americans are some badass motherfuckers. The Towas are up there with the Apache and the Comanche and the Shawnee. So Don Diego de Vargas, he leaves Santa Fe. Vargas follows the north branch of the Spanish Trail northward, traveling east of the Rio Grande, and he enters the San Luis Valley just southeast of the Ute Mountain. You could drive right past. So the Ute Mountain is actually technically in New Mexico, but to get into the park, you have to go through Colorado. So it's very close to the border. Ute Mountain is very close to the border of New Mexico and Colorado, so I feel like if you could say you were at Ute Mountain or around Ute Mountain, then you could say that you were in Colorado. Now, what's the San Luis Valley experience for Don Diego de Vargas? Not much. Very, very little. So while in Costilla County, Colorado, Don Diego de Vargas, old DDD Vargas, and his, 300 Spanish conquistador sons of bitches, they were going to skirmish with the local Ute Indians. So fantastic, right? They're attacking the Taos, Pueblo, and natives, stealing their corn. Now they run up to Costilla County. Now they're skirmishing, fighting. They call it skirmish, but, did people die in this skirmish? So, yeah, fantastic. Don Diego de Vargas, stealing from the Taos, warring with the Taos Puebloans and the Towas, and now we got, war with the Utes. Don Diego de Vargas skirmishes with the local Ute Indians, marvels at a herd of 500 buffalo. Is that 500 buffalo? Oh, me. Oh, my. He also sees some very large deer, that elk, moose, maybe it's just deer, right? Where the deer and antelope play. So, home on the range. The San Luis Valley is the range, right? This is home on the range, the deer and antelope. So there were deer, some very large deer. And he left a journal which named the Colorado rivers, creeks, mountains, indicating the Spanish had already explored southern Colorado. So they knew a lot, already had maps, right? So this indicates that so the Spanish probably know more about, the founding of Colorado than the, people of English, the Anglo, phone, the Anglosphere, sphere. Don Diego de Vargas also noted that the sign language and smoke signals, there was sign language that was being used, and smoke signals were used to communicate between the Native Americans. Also very dry desert, so you got to get some water. You're going to go up here, so he just comes up here, looks at the buffalo, looks at the deer. He's stealing all this damn food, but why don't he kill the buffalo and the deer? Jacob Fowler, they kill the deer, and they got a wagon behind the horse, and they just throw it in the wagon behind the horse. But apparently they can't kill the buffalo, catch the buffalo, kill the deer, catch it. They can't do nothing, right? They come up here, they're stealing all these natives' food, all their corn stores or what have you. And this is just a documented stuff. There was a lot of Native Americans in the San Luis Valley and Costilla County. It wasn't just the Utes, the Capote, the Caputa Utes, but it was the Kiowa and the Comanche and the Apache, Navajo, Arapaho, and the Cheyenne, the Hopi and the Zuni, too. The Puebloans are still here. The Pueblo natives are still here. You still have those old, Pueblo houses, those mud adobes. And so Hopi, Zuni, Utes, Cheyenne, Arapaho, Navajo, Apache, Comanche, Kiowa, Utes. If you're a brown person and you live in Costilla County, why would you worship the damn Spanish conquistador, white European invader, dirty rotten sons of bitches, when you can look at the culture of the Arapaho and Cheyenne, Hopi, Zuni, Utes, Comanche, Apache, Kiowa. So Vargas's return trip to Santa Fe took him along the Rio San Antonio on the west side of the Rio Grande, exiting the valley on the west side of the San Antonio Mountain. So he's going to come up the Ute Mountain, walk around a bit, and then just leave. He was on the east side of the Rio Grande, gets onto the west side of the Rio Grande, and then just gets the flock out of here. We need to get the flock out of here, right? Then you're going to have 1807 Zebulon Pike. So nothing's going to happen in all 1700s. We don't know shit about the set. They already had maps, right? They had maps, so there was, some of the Spanish had come up here. So there's more to this story. But so far, right? So far, what do we know? Not much. We know there's buffalo around here, some very large deer. They had left a journal. I don't know what the names of any of these things were, so it doesn't matter if it's the information, right? Some asshole named all this stuff, but they didn't pass those names. Some of them, Spanish, but there's other. So he noted the sign language and smoke signal. That's interesting, right? Natives are using sign language and smoke signals. And then he, probably killed some Utes, just like he killed some Taos and Puebloans. And that's it. That is it. Oh, shit, they're using smoke signals. Hey, they got sign language. Hey, let's draw a map, or here's a map with some asshole named on, and here's a bunch of buffalo. Hey, there's some Utes. Well, let's try to steal theirs. Oh, shit, they're not. Well, let's just get the flock out of here. So, yeah, fantastic. Is that really an expedition we want to celebrate? Should we put a historical marker and make sure, hey, everybody, guess what? Don Diego de Vargas, came up here. It is pretty fascinating now since the Spanish don't have, any claim or the Spanish used to be around here. Well, shit, they really lost, and there ain't no Spanish around. Like, what the hell happened there? That's why you should let Catalonia go. So Jacob Fowler, okay, so Jacob Fowler is going to enter the San Luis Valley, the Levada Pass on February 4th, 1822, which is the first passage I read. For 3 months, traveled between Taos and Fort Garland. So, right, Taos, Fort Garland, he just, saying all the animals he saw, beaver, elk, deer, bear. They say a cabaret, which is an antelope, an otter, big horned sheep, wild horses, geese, ducks, and a wolf. So these are the animals that were native to the San Luis Valley during Jacob Fowler's era. Beaver, elk, deer, bears, antelopes, otter, bighorn sheep, wild horses, geese, and ducks. He also mentioned cottonwoods and willows. Oh, there's some cottonwoods and there's some willows. Growing sparsely by some creeks, 1822, Jacob Fowler hunted a herd of 90 horses because he wanted to eat one. Near the Ute Mountain, he killed 2 bighorn sheep. How do we know that? Anyways, okay, so Jacob Fowler was a wandering, he killed 2 bighorn sheep, really? He didn't mention it. Hunted a herd of 90 horses. Okay, anyways, Jacob Fowler was a wandering squatter. So Jacob Fowler is actually a pretty larger-than-life figure. A figure I don't care for, like a Kit Carson kind of dickhead, a De Soto, a Spanish conquistador dickhead, right? But he had the skills and the talent and the adventure and the wandering spirit, and as a discoverer, it's kind of exciting. So Jacob Fowler was actually, he was wandering squatter, he was wandering spirit. He was actually a rich, wealthy man. He did, married some French woman, lived in Covington, Newport, Ohio, Arkansas, Colorado, Kansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico before all those places existed. Oh, I was in Colorado, but I was in Covington. Oh, there is no Covington. There is no Newport. Technically, or, I don't know, maybe through folklore, Jacob Fowler was the first settler of Newport, Kentucky, the first settler of Newport in 1792. Fowler's Tavern is going to open in 1795, so he's got a bar, he's making money selling alcohol. 1785, he went with George Rogers Clark across the Ohio River to raid Shawnee towns near Pequot, the Great Miami River. So Jacob Fowler was killing Native Americans left and right. Jacob Fowler has no higher claim or moral claim than the Spanish conquistadors. So he's just an English conquistador. But he's seen some defeats. This is Tecumseh, I believe. Hamar, St. Clair, Tecumseh, Simon Girty. They're going to defeat George Washington. And the American military, 1790, 1791, one of the few defeats of America's war record, Hamar and St. Clair's defeat. So Hamar and St. Clair's defeat was when, American federal soldiers tried to go into Ohio and conquer Ohio and take it away from the Native Americans. And Jacob Fowler is nearly going to die at St. Clair's defeat. The gun was like right in front of his face, and he saw the smoke or some shit. That's how. Then he just, just ran, just run, Forrest, run, and just, saved Bubba and got the hell out of Vietnam. 57-year-old Fowler went on Glenn-Fowler expedition 1822. Don't tell me you're dying. Battery! So, I got so much more. So I guess part one. Okay, so until this dies, 57-year-old Jacob Fowler, he's going to go through the Plains Indians, where there was Kiowa and the Arapaho, which were friendly and nice. They were commissioned. The whole point of the Glenn-Fowler expedition was by the American government to see whether trade with the Spanish in the region would even be possible. 21 men were on the Glenn-Fowler expedition, so the numbers are completely right. Not 300 Spaniards, but only, 21 men. The Kiowa and the Arapaho were friendly, but the Comanche and the Crows were not. So the Comanche and the Crows were attacking Jacob Fowler. Kiowa and the Arapaho were like, "Hey, Jake, what's going on?" The 1822 Glenn-Fowler expedition eventually led to the creation of the Santa Fe Trail. Jacob Fowler went to Santa Fe January 1822, found no Spain, only Mexico. It was during the Mexican Revolution, the independence, so Mexico and the Native Americans kicked the Spanish out. So when he went into Santa Fe, they didn't even know, right? Florida had no idea what was going on in New Mexico. Massachusetts had no idea what was happening in Colorado and, New Mexico and Mexico. So they turned around, and then they came back up. Jacob Fowler, that's when he's going to write about the San Luis Valley. Well, actually, he came this way. So wait, he couldn't have got to Santa Fe in January 1822. Scratch that. I'm not sure about Santa Fe, January 18. Anyways, and then he's going to build a house in Pueblo, Colorado. Therefore, he was the first resident in Pueblo, Colorado, first resident in Newport, Kentucky. Right? He rode with George Rogers Clark to go kill a bunch of Shawnees, and then he's part of the Hamar and St. Clair. They tried to kill the Shawnees again, but he nearly died. And then, the Comanche and the Crows are attacking him. And anyway, so that's a little bit of biography of who Jacob Fowler is, right? So he's all over the place. And the fact that he's documenting it, and it's like, who else do we have no other so we got to, listen to this asshole that, jotted a few notes one fucking month. 1 month, 200 years ago, this asshole jotted a few notes, and these are the few notes, and what can we glean off these few notes? So much historians pay so much attention to the tiniest bit of information, and yet we live in a system where there is no system of, justice or fairness and police brutality all over the place. So it's kind of crazy. It's like you look at the evidence of history. Well, who did that? Who did it? So much scrutiny. And yet when somebody, that guy hit that guy, and who gives a shit? I would rather, let's talk about Jacob Fowler. What did Jacob Fowler actually see? What did he actually know? So, I guess I'm going to come back to the specific diary entries. I just want to talk about each one. February 1st, I got notes from February 1st to February 8th. So the notes of Jacob Fowler is coming up soon. Peace.